Okay. Today is what? Easter. What a great day. What a great day. Hallelujah. He is risen. What do you say? He is risen indeed. If I don't know, I never did that as a kid when somebody said, hey, it's Easter. It's like, let's eat. Isn't that another word for it is? So we're going to start with our being shocked. Were you shocked this week? I was shocked, so let's be shocked.
Brown. I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
I love that.
You're winning, sir. Oh, thank you very much. Everybody out.
Now, here is something. Everybody seated. Everybody on their heart medication. You know, you're okay. You're settled. You're not leaning back on your seat, so you're going to fall over. Can I tell you a secret? Just between us. It's like Oprah. Did you ever see Oprah or somebody do an interview and they say, just between us? And there are cameras and everything. Just between us. Do you know that prices are going up? Shocking. I'm shocked. Here's the latest. These are how prices are going up. You know, on average, it's over 8%, almost 9% prices are going up. And of all the things to be upset about, bacon. Look how high bacon went up. I mean, after all, I'm convinced that Adam and Eve, that bacon was hanging on the tree of life. It's bacon. No. Or how about this one? Does anybody have Netflix? You have Netflix? You have Netflix? Well, if you don't have Netflix, but you have some other kind of online service, normally they have a button that says, skip the introduction. Now, I was telling some other people, we're going back through, now you all are not old enough to remember the Rockford Files, but it has one of the great theme songs of all time. And I was like, I'm not going to skip it because I just like it. You're thinking through your mind, what was it? But anyway, in Netflix, they have a button that says skip the introduction. So you can, and do you know how much that it saves? It's pressed 136 million times a day. And if you were to add up all of those minutes that it saves in the introductions, it's like 195 years. So anyway, now some of you used to work at Disney. I don't know how you feel about them or what is happening with the Disney organization. And this was a survey that was done about how the public is responding to what's going on with Disney. And I know you'll be shocked to find out that somewhere over 70% of people think the way Disney is acting is terrible, and they're going to stop going. They're not going to take their kids, their grandkids, because of everything that's going on. It's just a statistic. They think, people have a right to believe what they want. And then people have a right to respond. So I thought this was an interesting statistic. And now, because today is Easter, here are two numbers for celebrating Easter. By the by, if you ever have a question about the Bible, ever have a question about faith, anything related to that, go to gotquestions.org. It is a great, great, great resource. I use it many, many times. The numbers are 20.80 and 61.83. And you notice that's dollar signs, right? So it's dollars. Just so you know, $61 and change is the average amount that somebody spends on an Easter basket. Yeah, I know. It's like, really? It's like that, And the other number that's the number of billions of dollars that were spent around Easter-related items. It's a big business. It's a huge business. And I know one other shocking thing is they're finding out that the Russians violated human rights. I'm shocked, right? I'm shocked. Well, and last Sunday, this is a transition. And Anybody a sports person other than me? Watch golf other than me? Last week was the Masters, and a guy by the name of Scotty Sheffield won. And here is part of the interview after he wins the Masters.
Yeah, Scotty, I'm curious, you've talked a lot about just your desire to compete and how much that means to you. How do you balance that desire to compete and to immerse yourself in it without letting it kind of define who you are as a person?
Yeah, I think that all goes back to my faith. You know, the reason why I play golf is because, you know, I'm trying to glorify God and, you know, all that he's done in my life. And so for me, my identity isn't a golf score. You know, like Meredith told me this morning, she says, if you win this golf tournament today, if you lose this golf tournament by 10 shots, if you never win another golf tournament again, she goes, I'm still going to love you. You're still going to be the same person. Jesus loves you, and nothing changes. And all I'm trying to do is glorify God, and that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm in this position. And so for me, it's not about a golf score.
Does that free you up in the moment? Does it make you less nervous?
100%. You know, if I was trying to win this golf tournament when I was in high school, you know, if my high school self was trying to win this golf tournament, I would have been a totally different person out there on the golf course. You know, every day when we go out there, Meredith always prays for peace, because that's what I want to feel when I'm out there on the golf course. I want to feel peace and have fun and just feel his presence. And so that's her prayer every day. That's my prayer. And I really felt that today. I felt at peace. You know, like I said, when I got to the golf course, I was pretty much settled in. It's just the morning that was tough.
Last question.
Not too bad, not too shabby.
Very nice.
Guy willing to talk about his faith on a global stage. He didn't hesitate. He was asked and he answered the question. So I just think that, you know, he had that chance, but maybe you have a chance. You have a chance, and I have a chance to do that very thing. I was, this morning, I want to say talking with a friend, but let me just put it this way. I was listening. Okay, they were talking, and then they talked some more, and they were talking, and I would use the term unloading. Anybody ever unload on you? Do you know what I mean by that? Maybe you've unloaded on somebody. And as I was listening to them, and this went on for like 20 minutes, and finally I was like, I'm here. They obviously trust me. Why? I don't know, but they do. So I was like, how can I be an encouragement to them? How can I be a help to them? And so, you know, my response was, well, you know what? I think God is walking in front of you and opening up things for you. And I just hope and pray that God takes you to the place he wants, and that you go with him. And so, you know, a lot of this, the reason I bring this up is because what is today? Easter. Today is Easter, which is resurrection. The resurrection. The resurrection changes what? Everything. The resurrection is not another card in the hand of poker of life. Do you ever play poker or rummy or something like that? You know, you get another card, you put it in, and, you know, sometimes you discard, you know, you're doing these cards in and out. The resurrection is not, oh, isn't that nice? I have the resurrection. I'll add that to the collection. No, the resurrection changes everything. And there's a guy who has a church in Atlanta. His name is Andy Stanley. And I want you to listen to what Andy has to say about the resurrection.
I absolutely love Easter because at Easter we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, and the resurrection of Jesus is not like a big deal, it's like the biggest deal. The reason that the resurrection of Jesus is such a big deal is that it points to the answer to a question that everybody ought to ask. And the question is, who is Jesus? And the resurrection is what convinced first century Jesus followers and first century people who refused to follow Jesus that Jesus was who Jesus claimed he was. I mean, anybody can make these outrageous claims. But when Jesus rose from the dead, it convinced his closest followers who had all run away by that time. And as we're going to see, it convinced people who never decided to follow Jesus in the first place that Jesus was who Jesus claimed to be. And the cool thing is this: the resurrection has been convincing people ever since. The story of Jesus wasn't even worth telling apart from the resurrection. Apart from the resurrection, no one would have documented the life of Jesus. Apart from the resurrection, he was just another wannabe rabbi that kind of went off the rails. He was another promise maker that couldn't keep his promises. The reason we even know his name, the reason his name is proclaimed throughout the world today is not because of what he said and not because of what he taught, but because he rose from the dead. And the resurrection punctuated everything Jesus taught and claimed about himself.
Doesn't get much better than that. If you don't know about Andy Stanley, he's got a YouTube channel. His church is North Point Community Church outside Atlanta. He has a TV show that plays after Saturday Night Live. It's a great time. It's called Your Move. And he just communicates just extremely well. And I like the way he said, yes. Yes, I believe, yeah, he's retired.
He's still a little active, but he's not, he's the senior pastor of First Baptist Church of Atlanta.
Yeah.
He's 86 years old.
He's his son.
That's his son.
That's his son.
Yes.
Ooh, yeah. Good guy. Good guy. Good communicator. So thank you for asking. The point of the resurrection is that it changes everything. And Jesus, yeah, I love this about Jesus. Jesus didn't just pop out of the tomb and say, surprise! He warned them. He told them over and over and over and over again. He says, guess what, guys? We're going to go to Jerusalem. I'm going to be betrayed. I'm going to be arrested. I'm going to be found guilty. I'm going to be beaten up. I'm going to be turned over to the Romans. I'm going to be crucified. I'm going to die. And then 3 days, I'm going to come back to life. He told them over and over. This was not new news. He told them it was coming. And yet when it came, it was still a big surprise, because resurrection is so astounding. Resurrection literally means to stand up. That's what it means. The word resurrection means stand up. Now, when you're dead, where are you? You're laying down. You know, when I walked into the room after my mother had died, she's laying there. She is horizontal. Everybody who dies is horizontal. Because why? They don't have the strength to stand up. You need strength, right? You got to be able to have a mind. When you're dead, you're dead. There is no option. There is no second act. And lying down is death. But resurrection that's where you, as we would say here in Central Florida, that's where you was. Okay? That's where he was, but now he's no longer horizontal. He's vertical. He has stood up. And when he stood up, he went out of the tomb, and women went to the tomb, not because they remembered. They weren't sitting in a Starbucks somewhere on that Saturday said, now I remember. Do you remember? Jesus said something that he was going to come back. He was going to come back from the dead. Do you remember that? They didn't say that. They didn't say, oh, well, let's go see. Let's just check it out. No, is that what happened? No. They went for an entirely different reason. They went because they thought he's still going to be dead, and we're going to take care of his dead body. That's why they went. They didn't go there thinking, hey, let's just check it out. No, he was dead. They knew he was dead, and they went, and these messengers of God come, and they said, look, that's where he was, and he ain't there no more. He is gone. His body wasn't taken. He is risen. And it says, he is risen how? Just like he said. These angels confirming Jesus' words. Jesus said it, and now it's true. And come and see. Come and see means what? Check it out. It's reality. It's something you can touch. Your senses can confirm it. Some people believe that the resurrection is a nice story. And it is a story that points us to a higher truth. It's spring. Spring comes back, and flowers come out. It's a beautiful thing. There's a newness of life. It's a higher thing. It's not real. But the resurrection, Jesus says, was going to be real, was going to be historic, and it was both of those things. And C.S. Lewis wrote about this in The Lion and the Witch and the Wardrobe, and I just think the way it's portrayed is just terrific.
Susan! Aslan, what have they done? But we saw the knife. The witch.
If the witch knew the true meaning of sacrifice, she might have interpreted the deep magic differently. That when a willing victim who has committed no treachery is killed in a traitor's stead, the stone table will crack, and even death itself would turn backwards.
I just think that's a marvelous portrayal of the truth. It was a physical, literal resurrection. It wasn't a story. It wasn't an illusion. Jesus didn't swoon. I don't know if you've ever heard that term, where he's up on the cross and he passes out, and then he survives. It's like, I'm sorry to use this example, but from where I come from my neighborhood, from my background, we would say, you're smoking the wrong stuff. Okay, I'm sorry to say it, but that's what it was where I grew up. And, to think that, I think that takes much more faith than the physical resurrection, because Peter and John hear about it from the women, and what do? They run. They run. Peter and the other disciple, who is? John. Okay, it's John. We're both running, but the other disciple, John, outran Peter. Peter was an old fart like me, and you got John runs fast, and what does John do? He reaches there first, but he doesn't go in. He sticks his head in and looks around. He looks around. He sees where things are. He doesn't really think about it. He's just looking. He doesn't go in and then Peter comes along, and what's Peter do? Peter, Peter's like our kids. Peter and John, we had 3 kids. We had one kid, our son Dan, who was a John, okay? He never went into anything. He looked at it. He took information. He let other people come in. Jenny and Eddie would run in. It didn't matter, just run right in, and Dan would see what happened. Well, that's the way it is with Peter and John. John's just sort of looking in. Peter arrives and goes right in. He goes straight to the tomb. And when he goes in, he sees and experiences it personally. And he asks some questions in his mind. He sees it, and then, do you ever see something and then begin to sort of work out, well, how does this work? How did this work? What does this mean? I'm like that. It takes me a while. And maybe one of the things Peter did is, he saw it, but he couldn't figure out the meaning of it all. And, think about it in the context of what's happened in the past couple of days. They came, there's the arrest, the trials, his denial, the crucifixion, the burial, and now this empty tomb. He's trying to figure it out. And you'll notice, it doesn't say Peter believed, does it? He's still working it out in his head. John doesn't believe either. They're taking it in. But after this, finally, the other disciple, John, steps in. And he went inside. But this time, he saw and believed. He believed, not saying, oh, well, I hope. No, he believed. He knew it to be true, and it was going to change the rest of his life. We don't believe unless we see. We don't believe until we come to the point of saying there is an answer. And the answer was beyond our failure. The answer was beyond death. Because Jesus then appears to his disciples, and he provided not just one proof, he provided many convincing proofs. Not just one, many. Over and over, Jesus proved that he was physically raised from the dead. It's like when I want to go somewhere, this past Thursday, I needed to go to Sebring to attend a memorial service. So I put the address in the car, and the car said, go this way, make this turn, it'll be on your left. There were all these signposts, there were all these steps, and it took me to my destination. Faith is like that. Faith says, this is true, this is true, this is true. And then you make that commitment that says, I believe. Now, for some of us, like my wife, Mary Ann, it was a series of small steps over time. She actually doesn't remember a time where she said, I received Christ. She just sort of grew into it. For me, it was a frying pan upside the head, because that's what I needed. But we all come to that point, we need to all come to the point of coming to grips with it. Now, there is a movie that is a perfect illustration about the resurrection and how it should impact our life. Anybody want to hazard a guess of what that movie might be? What movie could possibly be the greatest illustration of how the resurrection should affect our life? You're spellbound, right? You're running movie titles through your head. No, not even close. The best movie that illustrates what the resurrection should do for us is the movie The Sixth Sense. Have you ever seen The Sixth Sense? You've never seen The Sixth? Some of you have never seen The Sixth Sense? Here it is. It's a movie, Bruce Willis and this young kid, and Bruce Willis is a psychiatrist, a child psychologist, and he's helping this kid because the kid says, I see dead people. And it goes through the whole movie. You're going through the whole thing. You go through all of these scenes and these interactions with people, and you're, how is this going to end? And at the very end of the movie, the boy tells Bruce Willis that he's dead. And then you start thinking back all through the movie, all of these scenes, and it changes everything. You remember when Bruce Willis's character was talking to this woman, and you remember the scene. And he really wasn't talking. They really weren't talking to one another. And all these other things. And after you have seen the movie, it's all changed. You can never, ever watch The Sixth Sense again the same way. Because you know the ending, right? You know that Bruce is already dead. When you start the movie, he's already dead. He's a ghost. But he doesn't know it. And now you start walking through the movie and you know the end. It's all changed. That's what the resurrection should do with you and for me. We come to understand the resurrection. It changes everything. And the resurrection is not to pat us on the head. Did you know that? The resurrection is not, it can make us feel good, and I'm happy for that. But the resurrection is really to smack us upside the head. The resurrection is uncomfortable. The resurrection is to grab us and shake us out of our complacency and say, life is going to be different from this point forward. It should shatter our world. It should change everything. It surprises us. It makes everything in life different. It should change the way we walk, the way we see, the way we act, what we say. It's like the scene from Jesus of Nazareth after Peter has figured out that Jesus is risen.
Yes. You asked me if I believe he's risen. Yes, I do. For I know in my heart he will not abandon us. I know in my heart he has forgiven me. Us. Forgiven all of us.
I just think that's a great portrayal. The resurrection is proof that he has forgiven us. It's the nail in the coffin, if you will, of our separation from God. He has forgiven us. He has forgiven us all. Peter, who had denied Jesus 3 times. Peter, who said, everybody else will walk away, but hey, not me. He found forgiveness because Jesus offers forgiveness, and it's proven through the resurrection. And that should really, really, really changed the direction of our lives. And if it hasn't, you got to ask yourself the question, if the resurrection hasn't really changed my life, then how much of this Jesus thing have I really bought into? It should give us a new direction, a new energy, a new focus. The resurrection should make us feel uncomfortable. Jesus broke all the rules. He came back from the dead. If there's one rule in the universe, it's dead is dead. And he wasn't going to stop that one, as the high priests found out after the resurrection.
This is precisely what I feared. His disciples must have come in the night, removed the stone, and taken away the body.
Possible. I had guards here, as you requested. And your priests were here, too.
Now it begins. It all begins.
Now it begins. The resurrection brings the question, has it begun? Has it begun? Has it changed our lives dramatically? Does it continue to still shift us, to put us in places where we're uncomfortable? It will. There's nothing comfort. It does comfort in that he is risen from the dead, but the impact on our lives is not to be comfortable. It is to say, it begins, and the question is, when you say those words, does that end with a question mark or with an exclamation point? Has it really broken in and changed us? Has it really pushed in the walls of our life and say, it is true, he's risen from the dead, and everything now is different. It's a real new beginning, and I'm here to tell you it can make all the difference in the world. To you, your family, your friends, the people around you, people in your extended families, it makes all the resurrection makes all the difference in the world. He really does. So as we leave this place, the messenger said, go tell his disciples, and especially Peter, the one who screwed up the worst. We can go tell, not accusing, not with malice, not with I told you so, but with, hey, Jesus is really out of the tomb. It really happened, and it really changes everything. Let it now begin. Would you pray with me? Our Father and our God, I thank you that you have not turned away from us, but you, in a real sense, turned toward us in an eternal way with Jesus dying on the cross and being raised from the dead. It really is all about you, and we want that to change our lives. Forgive us when we hold back. Let us give you new strength in our life. In Jesus' name, amen. Speaking about changes, I don't understand it. I am blown away. I'm just totally unworthy. But these articles I write keep getting republished. And this one got republished 2 different places. And it's like, my stuff, really? But God, if God can use me, trust me, he can use you. And another thing that happened this week is my website where you can go and find and share all these videos and material got totally redone. And there is a new tab. It's called Current Series. You'll find all, under this one click, you'll find all of the stuff under the series, the dictionary. So anyway, I'm just very thankful and humbled by it. And you all have been such an encouragement. I just want to thank you for that and to just let you know what's going on. So you all have a great week, a blessed Easter. You're loved by the people around you. Thank you and bye.